toward national forests where multiple use may everywhere embrace the uses that sacrifice wilderness, toward national parks where even the backcountry will include the roads and accommodations that introduce more and more people to less and less wilderness, toward a beautiful, lovely outdoors where any of us would gladly live on century after century if we could, a marvelous land, but without wilderness. Toward such a destiny we are surely headed if we hesitate and turn aside from the only way that we have yet found toward enduring policies and programs for wilderness preservation. This only way that we have yet found is through the establishment of a policy and program by the nation regarding lands that belong to the public, under which wilderness areas shall be designated and protected as such. A basic step is the enactment of congressional legislation. It is to this end we have pending the Wilderness Bill. As conservation-minded citizens, we have a deep interest in our national wilderness heritage. As citizens, we share also a responsibility for observing as well as using our democratic processes. We are compelled both by our requirements and our obligations to respect those who may emphasize other aspects of the public interest or, indeed, their own interest. Enactment of legislation by the Congress of the United States is as great an undertaking in its difficulties of realization as it is in its promise for the future of wilderness. Yet if we are to anticipate a wilderness forever future through a national sanction, we must in this country take this difficult first step. It is a step that is so difficult not because it goes so far, but because it must be taken by so many. A whole nation steps forward with purpose in the enactment of such legislation, and it marches only when so many are ready to go that the others must move too. Nor in our great government do we disregard the reluctant ones. Rather, we persuade, we confer, we try to understand, we cooperate with. Only ultimately do we compel. We are now in the midst of these democratic processes as directed toward the establishment of wilderness preservation on an enduring basis. There is nothing so important to us in our wilderness undertaking as the favorable working out of these processes. The Congress in Washington cannot, however, be our sole concern, even temporarily. Nor are the courses of action in Congress determined entirely in Washington, D.C. Throughout the land, we have also immediate and urgent concerns, and throughout the land are the citizens to whom the legislators in Washington are responsible. In working toward the adoption of this basic policy and program by Congress, the body charged by our Constitution with the responsibility for the lands where our wilderness exists, we are compelled not only by the exigencies of events and the interests of people to deal with far-flung problems throughout the land, we also are under the compulsion of recognizing that legislators are representatives of the people. If we are to gain the understanding and support of legislators of the Congress, we must have the understanding and support of the people. We must go out from our conferences on wilderness to work with our people on wilderness, to inform them through the press, the radio, through all our media of publicity, and help them organize in such a way as to make their informed purposes effective. The question is not one of dealing or not dealing with all our various and far-flung problems. It is a question of how we shall deal with them in our development of an enduring program. It is of great importance to enlist the civic leaders of our community in the study of problems relating to wilderness preservation. In every community, there are amongst local people businessmen, teachers, clergymen, laborers, farmers, and the many other groups. Those who will become effectively interested in wilderness if we can only help them get started. This is a leadership task that involves us in showing people how to provide a positive influence under the prerogatives of our democratic system. In brief, we need to practice the art of helping others work effectively in fighting for the things in which we believe. Nor have we exhausted our educational possibilities, and therefore our responsibilities, when we have adapted our wilderness information activities to all the common media of information and the means for organizational effectiveness. We need also to entertain in our own imagination every new stimulus of the public mind that we perceive. When youth groups are being mobilized for various purposes, and the image of the frontiers before the nation as an inspiration, we can, for instance, see in a youth movement motivated by the challenge of wilderness frontiers a new and vital force for making wilderness preservation an enduring reality. Primeval wilderness, once gone, is gone forever, but it can be preserved forever. The vision of generation after generation through an enduring future, perpetuating a soundly established human purpose, is as glorious as a man's view of sons and daughters when he himself senses the period of his own time and cherishes more and more the eternal. A practical program for wilderness preservation, even in its discussion, leads us into the inspiring contemplation of something that endures. That is the nature of wilderness, and we can hardly fail to realize it. What we must also recognize is that there is still the drive of the self-interest that exploits the wilderness for profit. There still are mining and lumbering interests who seek to confound, frustrate, and defeat every effort to secure wilderness as wilderness. There still are hazards in various enterprises that would continually modify wilderness rather than limit or regulate their own projects. We must use our inspiration to deal patiently, persistently, but practically with these contending forces. Our political realities are such that we must continue in our role as citizens to strive to see the nation of which we are the citizens espouse this cause to which we have become devoted. In this effort, we are compelled to recognize that we must have the concurrence of many who have not yet or have not long shared our purpose. We must recognize that wilderness as a resource of the people has not been assured perpetuity until those among the people who would and could destroy it have been enlisted in or reconciled to its preservation. We must continue to work for the passage of the basic legislation that is the first step in whatever we can accomplish. And as it is enacted, we must promptly mobilize for the 10 or 15-year program that it will inaugurate. There must not be any hesitancy in this, our immediate course of action. If some of us may indeed become wearied physically and profoundly in the years to which frustrations continue, who are only undefeated because we have gone on trying, we should never lose heart or determination.